Christopher, you have written in a piece in Slate talking about Michael Moore, Naomi Klein, Tariq Ali, our other guest here in the studio in New York, as fellow travelers with fascism.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that the ideology espoused by people like Zarqawi deserves the comparison with fascism. It's fanatical, it's irrational, it's dictatorial, it's racist, and it's a product of a terrible psychological and sexual repression. It gashes me more than I can easily say, or probably than I have time to say, to hear it called a resistance or an insurgency, or to have people call, as Tariq, I'm sorry to say, did in the pages of New Left Review some time ago, for solidarity with it. I mean, that is something that I've never heard properly justified or explained. Michael Moore in his film compares these people in Iraq, who, as you know, are the murderers and rapists and torturers, to the founding fathers of the American Revolution. This, to me, is inexplicable. Well, I'm sorry to say, in the case of Michael Moore, it's not inexplicable, but in the case of Tariq, I hope he'll offer a better explanation.
Tariq Ali.
Well, you know, I think words like fascism shouldn't be thrown about lightly, leave alone accusing...
I agree.
Leaving alone accusing people you disagree with of being fellow travelers with fascism. I mean, Christopher, from that point of view, is a fellow traveler with imperialism. He's a fellow traveler with people who are carrying out tortures in Iraq. The side he's on has killed several thousand innocent Iraqi civilians, but he supports that war, so you take, you know what you get. You support a side in the war and you accept all this as collateral damage, including the tortures, which are part and parcel of every single colonial war. And I would urge Christopher very seriously to go back and look at the war that was fought in Algeria. We have a mythology about this war that it was exclusively secular. It wasn't. There was a very strong, whether we like it or not, and I don't like it, because as Christopher knows full well, I'm an atheist. I'm not a believer in any religion. But if you have these countries where a large bulk of the populations are Muslims, obviously Islamic groups play a part in it, as they did in Algeria. As for thinking that...
Which Algerian war are you talking about?
I'm talking about the war against the French.
Not the Islamic insurgency against the FLN.
No,
which was put down by,
hang on, Christopher.
150,000 people.
I know,
defending the Algerian state from Islamic insurgency.
I know, Christopher, and the reason that particular insurgency started in Algeria is because the military interrupted a democratic election halfway because they thought that their opponents were going to win, rather than letting them win and putting very firm demands on the table that they wouldn't accept any tampering with the Constitution. That triggered off the insurgency. That's a different story. Now, to pretend that the entire resistance in Iraq consists of Zarqawi and his group is just completely false. This is a tiny group built up in the Western media largely, attacked by most Iraqis, dissidents of every sort who are opposed to the occupation. And you've got to just accept this. And I don't even support Zarqawi. I've never said I support him. I've criticized him in public, and I've criticized him in interviews with Arab television networks, saying this is not the way. But the resistance in Iraq is much, much broader and much deeper than that. And incidentally, as far as talking about these people having repressive sexual attitudes, this is of course absolutely true, which I have denounced many a time openly and publicly. But what about the Christian majority inside the Republican Party, which you support, Christopher? I mean, whatever else you say about Bush, you can't say his attitudes on homosexuality are particularly enlightened, not to mention capital punishment.
Christopher Hitchens.
Well, I actually couldn't say that I knew what the president's attitude to homosexuality is. I know what his attitude to gay marriage is, but in either event, I think it slightly strains...
we just have 30 seconds.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, then I should simply say this. The only really organized rebel force in Iraq, worthy of the name, insurgent force of People's Army guerrilla warfare, is and has been the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan and its allies, whose flag I'm happy to wear in my lapel. They deserve the name of a true rebel in People's Army, and they, of course, are fighting for regime change, and as long as they do, so will I.
Tariq Ali, 15 seconds.
I think the Iraqi resistance continues to grow because a colonial occupation has that effect, that even people who might have initially been indifferent or even halfway sympathetic, seeing the effects of a colonial occupation where large numbers, several thousands of innocent civilians are being killed. When you see the pictures from Samara of women fleeing with their children, it stokes the resistance. Zarqawi is neither here nor there.